It was the late, great Denny Green, who won a Monday Night Football game, and we forget so quickly that Denny Green coached the Arizona Cardinals. We think of Denny Green, we think of the Minnesota Vikings, but he coached the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals were not very good. I think Matt Leinart might have been their quarterback. Maybe it was Kurt Warner, but it was before they made the run toward the Super Bowl. And the Bears were good. This, I think, was coming off of the Super Bowl year. And on a Monday Night Football game, the Cardinals had the Bears right where they want them, and they couldn't close the deal, couldn't win the game, and they let them off the hook, right? But it was the big line, which most sports radio producers and board ops, they have up there on screen, which is, they are who we thought they were. And that's Colorado, right? That's Colorado. And it's always interesting to me on how we have these expectations of guy shows up and, 6 days later they have themselves a great football program. Now, in fairness, what I saw Bob Stoops do and transform Oklahoma was nothing short of miraculous. Oklahoma, during the last year of the John Blake era, was an abject disaster, but it was not devoid of talent. John Blake's last game, and John Blake was I think he passed away recently as well. John Blake was a really well-regarded man and recruiter, but he wasn't a very good X and O's coach. And his last regular season game, I think his last game of his coaching career as head coach, was against Oklahoma State. And in that game, they ran some shotguns. Before we called it spread, it wasn't spread. They ran some shotgun, they ran some power eye, and they ran some wishbone as well, all in the same game. None of it worked. None of it was pretty well. There was no kind of foundation or theme or what they did. They just went out there and played. Stoops takes over. And if you remember that first year, they did take a walloping. I believe Texas A&M beat them like 66-3. But after that, year two, it was on. He found his quarterback in Josh Heupel, who's now the head coach at Tennessee. The system, which was installed by Mike Leach. Mike Leach actually left and went to Texas Tech as the head coach after 1 year. And they started to run the football a little bit more, got a lot more conservative. But more than anything, the defense kind of just took over and was dominant. That was a 500 team that became a national championship team in 2 years. And because we've seen it there, because we saw it with Urban Meyer, 2 years in Ohio State, 2 years in at Florida, our assumption is that Deion Sanders could do the same thing in Colorado. And that's not happening. Now, I don't know what their ultimate ceiling is because it stands to reason they're a better team this year than they were last year. And their league, their conference, is easier this year than it was last year. And you can sit there and yell and scream me all you want and say I'm some SEC or Big Ten wonk or Pac-10 lover or whatever you want to call me. I'm actually an alum of the Big 12. I'm a proponent of the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is awesome. And if you want to say top to bottom, there's better athletes in the Big 12 than there were in the Pac-12, I'm okay with that. The difference is last year was a special year in the Pac-12 where you had fifth-year quarterbacks at Washington, at Oregon. You had the number one pick at USC. You had a six-year pick quarterback who didn't play, but now he's seventh year at Utah. Like, you just had dudes. Arizona was loaded. It was an incredible league last season. And while the Big 12, I think, will be really good, I think it's going to end up being the third best league. Some years the fourth. This year, probably the third. The difference is last year was an unbelievable year, and it was year one for Colorado, and they walked into a bunch of buzzsaws. The difference is that this year, North Dakota State, hard game, well-coached team. They're not the same since their coach left for Kansas State. But then they go to Nebraska and Colorado State, two games they won at home last year after surprising everybody and beating TCU to start the year. But I watched last night, and I felt like, anybody have kids that likes to go to Benihana? Have you ever asked my son, hey, you can pick one restaurant on earth to have a reservation at. One restaurant. And my son is not sheltered. He's really not, you know. He's lived in Connecticut and California and Oklahoma. He's been to Wisconsin and to Maine and to New Hampshire and to Minnesota and to Illinois and to Texas. He's been to Oregon, to Nevada. He's been to Arizona. He's been to a lot of places. So at 15 years old, if I were to say to him, like, hey, dude, you can have a Resi at any restaurant ever on earth right now. Do you know what he'd pick? He would pick Benihana. And to those of us who are adults, we go to Benihana and we're like, okay, here comes the egg thing. Right, here comes the volcano fire. Volcano fire. Then they'll cook the chicken usually first, right? The chicken first. And then they take the spatula and they can kind of flip the chicken into your mouth. They get it to land in your mouth. Any of these things, anyone who's ever been to Benihana is like, yeah. And at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, the food's fine. It's fine. It's in no way bad, but no one ever says, you know, I know you can go to a Michelin star restaurant, but what you should do is try that Benihana over Newport Beach. It's amazing. Like, it's just not. So I look at Colorado football last night and I think, it was like Benihana. You know, Shedeur's good. He's better than advertised. Obviously, Travis Hunter's amazing. Like, just an amazing young football player. Last touchdown catch was incredible. How'd he make it? I'm sure he's good enough on defense, although it's hard to tell. Like, we don't have an ISO cam on him. Like, he's big time. Those two guys are really good football players. Okay? And, you know, they scored at the end of the first half, kind of like it's a party trick. But at the end of the day, their defense isn't very good. They can't run the football. They're kind of soft. Shedeur's good, but, you know, it feels like the whole deal is just set up for him to be a star so that he can win a Heisman Trophy, he can be a high draft pick. Like, that's really, it's not set up with the idea of, hey, let's win a bunch of football games. Let's grind it out. Let's be tougher. Let's be nastier. Let's be meaner. No, that's not how they can play. It's just like a trip to Benihana, whereas there's lots of kids like, man, Colorado's playing. The rest are like, it's okay. It's fine. They beat North Dakota State. They didn't cover. There was nothing, no lasting takeaways. It's not like I want the 2 hours back or 2.5 hours back from watching the game, but it's not like I'm calling my friends like, did you watch that game? That was an amazing game. Did you see what he did? I can't believe what he did. And then there's the weird part of Deion Sanders. They get the ball back. They get the ball back with less than 2 minutes to go. It's like 1:35 on the clock. First down, and North Dakota State has one timeout. And it's not like we haven't seen this before. Like, we saw it last year. Didn't Mario Cristobal pull one of these deals off last year where he tried to score an extra touchdown and ended up losing the game? I think it was to Georgia Tech, I want to say, last season. Anyway, here you have Deion Sanders. All he has to do is take a knee, take a knee, take a knee. Okay? And if they wanted to punt then, they could punt then. You know, you could quick kick it, scrib it down there. There would have been 10 seconds left. The game is essentially over. Like, if you're really creative about it, you can run around for 10 seconds back there before you take one of the knees and then take a knee. And the game would have been over after the third play, the time expired with one timeout left. Instead, they decided to throw the ball on first down where Shedeur badly underthrew the ball. Lucky it wasn't intercepted. Which allowed for a bunch of times, and even though even though North Dakota State didn't do anything out of it, they sure as hell could have. Here's Deion when he was talking about passing late in the game.
Shedeur is such a good kid. Sometimes it cost him. Because at the end of the game, we just want to run the ball. Let's get out of here. And he took a shot, to LaJonte because he wanted LaJonte to have a big play. But that's his character. I'm like, dog, come on, dog. Not right now. It's not time to be the good guy right now. It's time to just put this game away. You ever felt like you won, but you didn't win? Let's move on from there. I'm going to try my best to hold back my anger, but we got the W, so I'm happy.
Okay, so here's the thing. Either Shedeur's lying or Deion's lying. Right? Because that story doesn't make any sense. Remember, we're told how smart a football player Shedeur is, and I'm willing to believe it. That he's ready to be a pro quarterback. I'm ready to believe it. No one plays quarterback with any sort of football IQ to win a game and throws the football there because his boy needs to get a touchdown. Like, no one does that. There's only really a couple possibilities. One is they're trying to win awards, trying to have Heisman moments, trying to win awards. That's what it felt like. Throwing a touchdown late when they're in zero coverage and all you're doing is taking a knee, that's trying to pump up the stats. That's what that is. That's a possibility. Could be a possibility that Deion's trying to do that for his son or trying to run up the score. That's a possibility. Or they're telling the truth and it's the dumbest football decision you've ever seen in your life. Possibility, but as remote a possibility as you can possibly get. So what do we have in summation? Deion thinks they're way better than they played. The rest of us watch and we're like, same thing. A little bit better, same thing. And you walk away thinking, Shedeur's good. Travis Hunter's good. I've seen the volcano trick. I've seen the egg thing. I've seen the little flip your spatula with your piece of chicken into my mouth thing. Like, I don't know. I'm probably going to be hungry in like 40 minutes again. Anyway.